Everyone, hello, hi, welcome. Let's wait another maybe 5 more minutes or something so that everybody is getting in. Are you energized? How many of you flow more than 4 hours? Okay, only me, somebody flow, okay, hello, perfect, okay. Well, I woke up this morning at 4, so don't worry, I'm super jet lagged. So if I fell on the floor asleep, don't worry, come reanimate me. Okay, it happens. James now here. James, hi, Matteo. This is James. James is going to help me. He's going to help around a little bit. He's a friend, and he knows that when I'm low on energy, I just fall on the floor and start to sleep. So. He has pictures, so it's totally. If you feel that I fall around, so don't worry, it's totally normal. Okay. Give me some sugar and get back up. So, great. Let's wait a little bit more time. People are still joining in. Amazing. Okay, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, I think we're missing still a few, but I might just as well start. So you see 2 names on this on the slide. Matteo Collina and David Marklem. David is a friend of mine. It's not this James. It's not Dave. Dave's not here. Dave could not come. So he's Matteo. Hi, Matteo Collina. You'll see me around a little bit in the next few days at the conference. Tomorrow I'm doing a keynote and a talk the day after. So I work for a company called Nearform, but doesn't matter too much. But follow me on Twitter. That matters. Thank you. And it's great. All the talk and material that you are seeing, it was prepared by David Marklemens, okay, which is not here. And by the way, I met him. I went having lunch with him in Amsterdam on Saturday morning. So whatever, if this matters to you at all, he's good and well, but he was not able to travel here. So he asked me if I could deliver this presentation in this workshop in his place. If you don't know, David is the main author of the Node.js certification, as well as all the materials that you find related to Node.js on the Linux Foundation and OpenJS Foundation websites. So if you find all the material was either prepared or reviewed or checked or ideated or, I don't know, something by Dave, okay? He's great. Here is Dave riding on his boat. So he lives in Amsterdam and move through the canals with his boat, okay? You can imagine, with long hair. So, okay, what is this course all about? So this course is part of the Introduction to Node.js. This workshop today is part of the Introduction to Node.js course. It's free on the Linux Foundation website. And we are going to follow it straight, step by step. I'm going to be, at least a part of it, okay? What I'm going to do, I'm going to be here helping out people, and so on and so forth. So, content of this course, setting up Node, okay? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. Ha. Of course, something was odd. So, course content, how to set up Node.js on your machine. This is one of the oddest things possible in Node. The way we tell people to install Node.js on the website is not what we should be doing. This is so much fun, okay? We could argue the reason behind this. It's open source politics, I would say. But what's written on the website is not how you should be installing Node for development, okay? So we'll show you what to do and how to install Node well so that you are set up for success in your journey. The course then talks a little bit about service mocking, so which is a very quick intro on how to build very simple HTTP servers. Then it's about goes real time and CLI tools, and more importantly, navigating the ecosystem. So what libraries to use and what to use on the ecosystem, okay? And then next steps. So that's the course of the content of the course, okay? What we are going to do today, okay? Today we are going to talk about setting things up, as I said, and then we'll talk about service mocking, and then the last 2 bits about navigating the ecosystem, what modules to choose, and what's next. But if you are fast, feel free to jump ahead, okay? I will be here, and you can totally forget about what I'm showing on the slides, and I will be here helping you step by step, even if you are jumping ahead and you finish early on the service mock. So don't be, if you think that that step is easy and you have done it in 5 minutes, then move away, do the step forward, and I can just jump in and help, okay? So, how many of you have received the getting ready email instructions? All of you? No? No? Yes? No? Did anybody not receive anything? Okay, a few people did not receive anything. Great, okay, so how many of you are using Windows? 2, 3 people, okay. Can the people with Windows move to be accessible? So that if you are in the middle, if you can just switch to move to the left, because I presume I will need to go and help fix your computer a little bit. So it's, sorry to putting shame on Windows. It's not your fault, it's a problem of Microsoft. So it's, I'm sorry, Microsoft, but that's what it is. Just so that I shift around so that I can, so 1, 2, 3, okay? And by the way, if you have a problem with Windows, we have a resident Windows expert. James uses Windows for development, so he is, okay. And so you need to use 2 tools, okay, for developing things in Node. Okay, so on the website, if you see what we tell people on the website, okay, and on the website, let me do this. And on the website, okay, if you go Node.js.org, we'll tell you to install it you click, and then you download a packet.pkg file, okay? Don't do that. If you're on Mac, don't do that. Or don't install the Windows installer. Don't do the Windows installer. On Linux, don't use the deb files, okay? So all those standard ways of installing stuff, forget about them. You need two ways for installing Node.js on your machine. So the first one, it's called NVM. What is NVM? So NVM is the Node version manager. It's a simple tool that enable you to install and to switch between multiple Node.js versions and to install multiple Node.js versions at the same time. Why is this needed? You probably know that Node.js is releasing versions every week, right? Or not every week, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. It has a very intense, to some extent, release schedule. You will find yourself updating Node.js frequently. So you need a way to actually be able to install those new versions when they come in. Not only that, but you also need to switch to an old version, because from time to time, oh, that project only worked on Node 14, and the new project will work only on Node 18. So you need to switch between 2 versions depending on the context. So what you do is that you install NVM. How do you install NVM? It's very simple. You Google NVM, and then you can find it, and then you pass this string, which should not be using, like trusting a stranger on a conference to run software on your machines. It's not safe to do, okay? But, sorry, trust me. Okay? I'm not going, all the Bitcoins are going to me, so don't worry about it, okay? Very happy. Making some money today. And so you just take this and run it on your machine, okay? By the way, NVM, you can trust NVM. NVM is a project that is part of the OpenJS Foundation. It's part of the family, okay? So you can actually do it and use it on your own. If you're on Windows, NVM does not run on Windows, okay? On Windows, there is, which is not Novartis, NVS, so Node version system, no, where is it, NVS, sorry, okay. If you're on Windows, there is this tool called the Node version switcher, which is not part of the OpenJS Foundation, but it also works on Windows, okay? You can install it in various ways, okay? You can download the Windows installer, or you could install with Chocolate. I don't know, you should be using Chocolate, James, what's the? You use Winget, okay, perfect, okay, fine, if you use Winget, okay. Anyway, you should install it, okay? And it enables you to switch between multiple Node.js versions, okay? So you can switch between multiple Node.js versions and runtimes, okay? So the concept is the same. You want a tool that enables you to switch between multiple Node.js versions. And otherwise, you are a little bit, you will be in trouble in your career as a Node.js developer. Consider the fact that more or less every quarter we do a Node.js security release. Worst case scenario, you should update when we do a security release. Okay, like maintaining a local working copy of an installation of Node. It's important. Okay. So having said that, how many of you have Node.js installed on your machine? How many of you do not have Node.js installed on your machine? You do not have, okay. So you, Windows, right? Okay. James, can you go help the Windows guy, our Windows friend over there, okay? And I'm going to go to the latest step. And by the way, you should start enrolling in the training, and here we go. Okay, fun. Okay, so you need to install Node, right? Okay, you have installed NVS?
Yes.
NVM, okay. And you need to, okay. Who else did not have Node installed? Okay. Why are we doing it? How many of you have experience building applications with Node.js? Have done that a little bit? Okay. Cool. So if I'm saying stuff that is super easy for you, let me tell you, this is a 101 course type of thing. So we are moving forward. Okay, so let's assume that you all have Node.js installed on your machine. And let's start a little bit. So get ready. So we have all the content of this workshop, all the exercises have been put together on that repository. So you will find the instructions for that into the training material. So here it is. And so enrolling the workshop, slide before, enrolling this, then you can clone this one. How many of you have not used Git before? All of you have used Git before. Okay. Nobody has raising hands, so I hope it's. If you have problems with Git, let me know, okay? Yes. Is not open? Ah. Thank you. Okay. We'll do some fixing. Live fixing of stuff. It's private. Take a second, do a round of applause for David. Round of applause for David McClemens. James, this is totally David expected behavior. He didn't make the workshop public. Total David. Good, Dave. We are here in the room with everybody. You are on loudspeaker. Okay. You forgot to open source the repository.
Oh, shit. Sorry about that.
Okay. So if you want to say something to the audience, it's actually a good moment, Dave, for.
Hope you enjoy it. You're in extremely good hands. Honestly, you're in better hands than if I was there, because Matteo is the absolute godfather of all of this stuff, and I learned a lot from him, so I hope you enjoy it.
Okay, go and open source this repo now, Dave, please.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Yeah. James says hi. James now says hi here with me.
Change visibility, make public.
Public. Okay. Perfect. Thank you, David.
Sorry about that, everyone. Enjoy.
Bye. Bye-bye, Dave. Okay. Live fixing. Thank you very much for letting me know, because otherwise, I don't know how many people tried and failed. Thank you. So you should be cloning this. Okay. So you were able to clone this? So quick check. Were you able to clone this? Were you able to enroll on the workshop, on the website? Great. OK. So we can move on to the next step. OK, so this, we talked about this. OK, setting up. So the first thing that you do when you enroll on the Linux Foundation training, OK, so what you will do when you do this. So you sign in. OK, and hopefully this will enter. So blah, blah, blah. So here you do the you enroll, OK? Then it's when you go here, you will see about this course. You see David Mark Clemens, hello, OK? And go to course. You will see that there is setting up, OK? So setting up Node, then you have a knowledge check, and then we are going to do service mocking, OK? Perfect. Cool. OK, so I'm going down. I don't like to stand on a podium. OK, so service mocking. So this is a little bit of a pill or a trick that you can use whenever you are developing web applications or other stuff, and you want to start using a little bit of Node.js in your day-to-day while you're learning it. So how many of you build web applications today? OK, how many of you doesn't know what HTML is? OK, you don't know. OK, fine, I'm sorry. That's the door, I'm sorry. I'm not going to cover HTML. Sorry. It's not a programming language anyway. No, I'm joking. It's totally a programming language. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to show you how you can start using Node.js to essentially start building your front-end applications while still you don't have a backend to talk to, which is usually very often very useful because you don't know what API and what features you need, functionality you need on your servers anyway. So you want to start with working on the UI first and follow experience first pattern. It's actually very good. So we typically develop a lot of stuff like that at Nearform or a lot of companies that I've seen. So exercise, very, very quick file server, how to build a very, very quick file server. So, OK, few links at the top. So if you go back on the course, you will see how this is done. OK, you can follow it on the course, and just to keep the slides up, so you can have a few pointers. OK. So you are here. You do explore service mocking, and actually, yeah, no, it's start from 1. OK. So this is that exercise. OK, you can see that it's explained step by step what to do. So the first thing we're going to use npm, as you can see, to install a module. OK, npm stands for nothing. OK, npm means nothing. OK, you can imagine what npm stands for, but it actually means nothing. OK, and it's some form of legal controversy over there. So it stands for nothing. OK, npm is the Node.js package manager, and it's bundled with Node. OK, but it doesn't mean Node.js package manager. OK, it means nothing. OK, and you can use to install modules from the registry, and this means npm install -gserve. It means that we install a module globally. Now, when you do this, it fails because it asks you for your sudo password, don't put sudo in front. If it asks you for Mac or Linux, if it asks you if you're used to do sudo npm install -g something, you are in trouble. Okay? This is a very good security measure. You should not be installing from npm using sudo on your machine, because it means giving random people on the internet, like me, full control of your machines. So, you should not trust me, okay? I'm wearing a mask at a conference, so I don't know. You can't even see my face. So I have long hair, whatever, don't trust me. So npm install -gserve, okay? So if you ask for super admin, whatever, don't give it to it, and raise your hand, and I come and fix your computer. Today is the only day on the year where I am actually fixing computers. Okay, if you have a printer too, don't worry, this is also part of the job today. Okay? Cool. Okay. So, first step, install something using npm install -gserve. Then we can use serve to actually serve a directory on the file system over HTTP. What is HTTP? Hypertext Transfer Protocol, okay? The thing that's used on the web to transfer files mostly, and API calls and all the other things. So you take your serve, then we need to create a folder. Because all of you can be using Windows or Linux or Mac, to create a folder, you can actually use Node to create a folder. Happy days, okay? So you can see that we can actually execute some Node.js inline and do node-e fs.makeDirSync static, and we create a static folder, a folder named static. Few interesting part. You might have heard that Node.js is an asynchronous runtime. However, we are using sync there. So this is what this actually means. It's actually sync, okay? So we are cheating. And blah, blah, blah. So, cool. Then if you follow up, you will see that it tells you to create a folder, index.html, and to continue, and so on and so forth, okay? So I let you follow it, and then whenever you have something that is rendering on the website, which should literally look something like this, okay, let me know, and we'll move forward. I give you maybe 15 minutes, but if you are done sooner, just let me know, okay? Hey folks, how are you doing? Were you able to get to the first part? Turns out it was not easy. Your computer could play against with you. So were you able to, all of you, show this? If not, don't worry, okay? You can keep going with it. And so what you have done is that you have not done any Node so far. You have only stole something from NPM, and you have been written some HTML and JavaScript with some great design, okay? Great design. So what are next steps, okay? So let's keep working on our front-end prototype, and you can do some edits on the prototype. So that's the first one, okay? Okay, yeah, review prefacer, fine, okay. So what you're going to do is basically you will going to change the JavaScript that is running on your web app so that it fetches data from a server. How does it do that? Well, so far not from a server. It just renders some custom data. So what we're going to do is, as you can see, this is just iterating our data. Sorry, we want to do, sorry, I'd say something stupid. So before that, we were getting the data from our code, okay? So if you go to David McClemen's whistle, quick file server, choose static, you will see here that you have we are getting the data from from an array, okay? It's totally fake, okay? So our application is completely not something near what it should be for production usage. But it works, you can demo it, and you can do your things. It's cool, okay? So what you can do now, and what we want to do now, is instead of getting that data embedded in our front-end app, we want to load it from a server, from an API. So what we're going to do is, and this is the exercise, okay? We're going to change our code and do this API, using the API called fetch, okay? What does fetch do? Literally, it gets some data from a server and move it to this system, or to your application. So you do an await fetch, and you get a response, and then you get the JSON from that response. What is JSON? JavaScript object notation. However, it's not JavaScript. It's called JavaScript object notation, but it's not JavaScript, okay? So it's a subset of JavaScript. So funny, right? It's called JavaScript object notation, but it's not JavaScript. Okay, I love this type of stuff. And what we are going to do, this code is actually very similar to the code that you can run in production. You see there is an API endpoint, and that you fetch, and then you take those data, and then you render that data. Pretty cool, okay? And this is a major difference from the previous one, is that the fetch API is now, so instead of iterating over the array, we are actually using the fetch API. By the way, tomorrow, I think or tomorrow or the day after, there is a nice talk from a friend of mine, Ethan Arrowwood, that is going to talk about fetch. So go and don't miss that talk. There's a lot of fetch happening, okay? And a lot of mean girls meme going around. So if you aren't following, this has been a hot topic in the Node world for a long time, okay? We made it, but anyway. So this is the size, okay? And the next step is, you see this not working, and then we keep going, okay? So first step is phase one, modify static app, okay? And then the second one is to create the server. The server, how we will be created, it's a very simple Node server. What you do is that you require HTTP. You can also import HTTP if you like it, okay? But I can show you how to do that later. and you require HTTP, and then you can actually return your data to using rest.end. Be careful to set those 2 bits, the HTTP headers. The first one is for cars, okay? Cross-origin resource sharing, blah, blah, blah. If you don't know what course is, study course, okay? It's one of my favorite interview questions, to be honest. Okay, so I'm going to spoil it to everybody. If you know course, if you like HTTP caching, I'd probably hire you, but it's fun. Okay, it's one of those fun ones, which is always about course. If something does not work, it's either DNS, course, or some bad HTTP caching configuration. Okay, so that's basically you can sum it up. James worked for Cloudflare. He knows you have been fighting all of those. All of those. You know, it's either one or the. Most of the time it's DNS. So. Okay. It's always DNS. Okay, so it's even if you don't think it is, it's fundamentally it's DNS. It can be traced down to a DNS problem at some point. Anyway, so I let you do this. All of these, as usual, it has some code laying around. I am putting a 15 minutes timer, but let me know if you need more time afterwards. And as usual, please raise your hand if you're stuck. Still no power strips, right? Still didn't show up. How's it going? Questions? Okay. Hey, folks. How are you doing? Were you able to get the server set up? OK. Great. So you ran the first Node program. Amazing. OK. So I'm going to show you a few things here. So, and where we are. Nope. Nope. OK. So going to show you a few things. So whistle. OK. So OK. So you wrote this server, right? So in this server, quite a little bit of things. So first of all, we are saying that the data is static, is static here. Of course, you can take this block of data and move it within your application, OK? Right? Perfect, OK? This request is a request, and REST stays for response. One more thing, the application JSON header is not correct. This is funny, OK? But to the point that it's not, OK? It works to everybody in the world, apart from people that have Japanese as the language of their machine. We can. There's a lot of reasons for that. But in order to support them, OK, it's not actually, you need to do something different. OK, whoop, this I can close. And you need to do something different. So you can actually Google it up, application JSON. You need to say that charset is UTF-8. OK, so you need to specify here. Otherwise, our friends in Japan will not be able to parse this correctly. Now, thinking of, so this is not the standard. The standard said that when you specify a JSON must be UTF-8. However, if your computer, if you configure Japanese language as the main language, will not do that. So whatever. So remember that, OK? So a few more things. You see this require. This is called CommonJS. It's the old school, whatever, module system for Node. So it's proprietary to Node. It's open source, but proprietary to Node. So it has probably the way vast diffusion. So you've seen it. You probably have seen it in a lot of places. OK. However, there is an alternative that is a standard. OK. If you use require and therefore a CommonJS module, you want the use strict at the top always. If you don't put use strict, bad things happen. So really bad things happen. So always put use strict in your JavaScript files, unless you use ESM. So I'm going to copy this file and into a file called server.mjs. And I am going to convert it to a ESM file. So you can actually use import now. And that's it. So how does it work? You can actually do node. Wait, I can just do this. Node server.mjs. And I can curl. And it's actually working as I expect. OK? I just wanted to show you because you might see it somewhere. There is a difference. OK? So one is a ESM file. The other one is a CommonJS one. There is a lot of documentation around this topic. So I'm not going to cover it all. I'm just going to mention it briefly that this exists. OK? And if you have more questions about this topic, please ask, and I will give you the answer. Go for it. So, okay, this is actually a great question, okay? I'm going to give you my opinion, which is not the opinion, is not a widespread opinion in the community, okay? So be a pragmatist, whatever works for you. In reality, this means be a laggard. So ESM is the future. No doubt, there's no doubt in saying that ESM is the future. In 2 years, 3 years from now, we will all be writing ESM. However, the community is migrating slowly. Especially certain part of the tool chain is still not there for ESM. This means that writing certain class of application, it's actually not that easy with ESM and not really newbie friendly, which means you start saying, oh, in order to, everything works, but it spits out a lot of warnings saying I'm using experimental features. It's probably a good sign to not go there if you don't know what you're doing. So if you don't know how ESM works, the internals, and you're not a framework developer or whatever, if Node.js starts spitting out, this is experimental, probably not a great idea, not a good idea to use the stuff, okay? Pretty much, okay? So that's the hint. So
it's also difficult to use it together. So if you have Node.js dependencies, you adopt them for your project, that'll work okay. But if your project, if your dependencies are ESM, you're not going to have much fun writing applications in Node.js. You're going to have to
go for it.
What about TypeScript? They are completely compatible?
Okay, this is actually another very interesting question. TypeScript. So TypeScript is not, Node does not run TypeScript files. So you take your TypeScript and you compile it to whatever you want. You can compile TypeScript to CommonJS, which is the default, essentially, or you can compile it to ESM. Just consider the fact that TypeScript only shipped support for ESM, for compiling targeting ESM this May, like 2 weeks ago. So if you were asking this question 1 month ago, I will tell you, no, TypeScript only use CommonJS. Now I can tell you, TypeScript, you can compile TypeScript in ESM, but they added support 2 weeks ago for it. So this is where I'm saying it's still not mature enough, okay? It's still maturing the ecosystem, okay? So if you're learning Node, it's probably better to use require, and you will see in the course that we are using require everywhere. All the examples are require-based. But if you want to learn the topic, essentially, okay? You will have to face it.
There's still a lot of tools that do not support ESM. So a lot of diagnostic tools, APM, a lot of observability tools still don't quite have full ESM support yet. They're working on it, they're coming along, but they're, if your company is dependent on a lot of those diagnostic tools, you're going to have a problem to get ESM. So it's something else to keep in mind. A lot of times the tooling you use will make this for you.
Okay, so let's go for it. So we have reviewed this stuff, okay? You were able to get through, okay? Note that if you drop this course line, it will stop, the API, the server will keep working, but your other endpoint will not, okay? You will not be able to access it. The reason is you're running a Node server and a file server, essentially, one next to each other at different ports, okay? This is one of the tricky business, okay? This is different from what the setup you will have in production, let's say, where you have one single endpoint and a reverse proxy that talks to both, okay? That's it.
here we're saying allow any argument. The application can work across multiple ports.
Cool. Okay. So next one up, okay, we're going to talk about mocking the get routes. So get routes. What is a get? Okay. Well, a get, and this is an important distinction, okay? A get is, it's a, when you're using the get verb, this is one of the HTTP methods that in your system, you are implying that it has no side effects. So the meaning of the get verb is that you can call it multiple times and you will always get the same result. And it actually is not changing anything. It has no side effects on the server. This is very important. So please always don't put side effects on your gets. So here is what we are going to do. We are going to change our server.js file so that here it is. Yeah, it's fine. Mocking get routes. Ah, yeah. And here we go. We have done this. Okay. So what we want to change our system so that instead of having a single route that is a catch-all that returns the full blob, we want to actually be able to, for each one of the categories, fetch what we want to achieve, okay? So we will create for each one of those an individual route for each one of those. So this is actually very common because you have multiple routes in your system, right? You don't have one single endpoint that returns all the data. You actually have multiple routes. So we changed the application code in a way that will actually select. So when you select a category, you will see here, you see populate products, it takes a category as an input. Whenever it selects a category, it actually fetches a route, which is the name of that category from your system, okay? Does it make sense? Great, okay, so that's how we are going to change our front end app. And after that, what we are going to do is we are going to use our server, we're going to write a server using Fastify. So this is part of where it's a little bit of self-promo, whatever. So what is Fastify? Fastify is a web framework for Node. I co-authored this with a bunch of others. I'm going to talk about it in the last few days, so don't worry too much about it. You can Google it up. It's up and coming. It's very friendly, though. And you can literally, these are a lot of explanations. Okay, so I will let you go through the explanation. And we are just want to create those few routes here. Lot of explanation, lot of text. I let you go digest through it. And I will be here to answer your questions. So, here it is. Here is the very simple steps, okay? Here. Stickers. So if you want Fastify stickers, I do have stickers. So if you want to take something out, you can get a sticker from. I have a ton of them, so don't worry. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. I have Pinot stickers up there too. Of course I have Pinot stickers. Any problems? All good? All good. Any blockers? Blockers? OK. Okay, everybody, how many of you are using Node 18? Great. How many of you were able to run the exercise successfully? Okay, so some of you, though, have not, probably, because there is a difference between Node 16 and Node 18. In Node 18, we have switched so Node.js historically had a DNS hack. As I told you, it's always DNS, okay? Node has shipped with a DNS hack since the beginning of time. So the Node DNS hack was to flip the order of the DNS resolution entries, putting IPv4 addresses first. Okay? Why? Because it provides a better developer experience. However, in the modern world, it's not, well, first of all, it's not correct. Okay? And second, in the modern world, it's not really something that you should be doing. Okay? So why does this all matter for this course? Okay, so that's the first step, the DNS part. Now, you're using Fastify. Fastify is secure by default. What does it mean? It means that when you run Fastify, it only listens, open a port on localhost. Okay? However, what does this mean? It means that it depends on what localhost is on your machine on the first entry, on your stuff. In the upcoming Fastify 4 release, it will listen to both the IPv6 address, which is ::1. That's the 127.0.0.1 in IPv6 term is ::1. Fun times, okay? And it's in the new release, it will ship both, okay? In case things do not work, you might need to pass a -a flag to the Fastify command, saying 0.0.0, and it will fix it. Now, things might differ from you in different machines because corporate policies, network policies, firewall configurations, and all sorts of things. So if things do not work, please raise your hand. I'm coming and fixing your printers. So that's my today duties on fixing printers. So again, no worries. OK, just so that was a quick, very simple announcement on the topic. We really care about limiting that open port because a lot of people develop stuff on coffee shops or on insecure networks or whatever. And it's actually very important that is limited by default, OK? There has been quite a few public vulnerabilities exploited in that way in the general public. So,
by the way, you're using
well, not strictly true, but you need to know, you could, if you know that, you need to know exactly what you're doing, okay? What you're signing yourself up for, okay? If you do that, you know, it's fine. We got there. It's mostly safe now. Please use Node 18, though. I'm just only saying that. Even on recording, it's fine. Use Node 18. One of my colleagues at Nearform is going to publish a blog post soon on the history of some very funny denial of service attacks that you could do against Node if you're not putting it behind an Nginx instance. Okay, Nginx typically protects against all these denial of service attacks, and Node.js had historically no countermeasures against them. We added the countermeasures, let's say, slowly. Okay. So the issue is called slow Loris, and it's a very famous HTTP DNS attack, HTTP denial of service attack thing, okay? It's literally crash your server by producing no traffic whatsoever, which is actually phenomenal because it requires very little money to run. It only requires servers. IP addresses, and you can just saturate a server very quickly with it. So it's phenomenal. But the Node 18 is the first release of Node.js that is protected against slow loris by default. Funny enough, okay? All the others required tweaks, and you need to configure it and make sure that everything works fine. So you will still put Nginx in front of it, yeah. But you need to put Nginx in front of it for a lot of other reasons, okay? But that one we fixed, okay? It's fun stuff. Cool. Let's see. You're still a few minutes here. Anything else blocked? you for debugging the course. Okay, so we can call David McClemens and then throw some rocks at him and tomatoes. Okay, so if you go in here, you will see that if you copy and pasted it, where it is. No, this copy, sorry, where is the problem? Because here is correct. Hmm? Oh, the copy and paste does not copy. Ha, so the copy paste does not work, but the text is correct. Okay, so, okay. Why the copy and paste does not work? Oh, you have no clue? Okay, I have no clue either. Okay. Happy days. Okay, so if you copy and paste, the backticks have not been put automatically. So you see those backticks. This syntax here. Why I can't even? It's very annoying. What the heck? Okay, you see this here. You see those backticks. Those are very important because it allows you to interpolate the thing. If you just copy and paste, it will not work because it will give you an error on the code because it cannot run it. Okay? So were you all able to get to the step? Is there somebody blocked still? Any blockers? Anything? All good? OK. Let's talk a little bit about the Fastify setup, OK, that you got. So you go into this, Will Stop Workshop, you'll see mocking get routes. Wait a second. So where are we? And yeah, so you are here, 5. So you have the mock serve directory. You have a layout of your folders like this, okay? You have an app.js file, which is the entry point of your system, okay? This is just a Fastify plugin. And you can actually register stuff with auto-load. So this is just the entry point. The important part is that you can, as you can see here, with the Fastify auto-load, you can actually load things automatically based on the directory routing. This is very popular with a lot of people, so that's what we are using, okay? So basically, you specify your, for example, electronics routing, and then in index.js, you return your electronics stuff. Okay, you see that there is a slash here, and the slash is because it gets from the prefix from the previous one. Go for it. Okay, sorry. Can you either drop your mask or? Oh, subroute? You can just so you can do two things. You can just put the subroute in and forget about it. Okay, no problem. It gets picked up and managed automatically. Or you can add another folder and put something in there. It just, both things works. It's more or less as your preference to some extent. You are probably familiar with Express to some extent. If the routing between Express and Fastify is different. In Express, the routing is one by one. So each route is tested one by one. So if you have 100, it will do 100 check before saying I couldn't find anything. Okay. In Fastify, the routing is deterministic. So whenever you define your server, Fastify builds a routing tree, and then it navigates that tree when doing the routing. The difference between those things is that using a tree actually make your routing actually scale to any complexity, while the other one, it's literally gets very slow very quickly over a very slow amount, small amount of routes, it gets very problematic very quickly. So it's just problematic, okay? So there are a few frameworks that use the step-by-step routing, as I call it, the naive routing algorithm, and other frameworks that use a more, let's say, computer science type of approach to the problem, and they use graphs and all that theory to navigate things. So, yes. So, and here it is. Okay. So, what else? Oh, there are a few interesting parts into this service. So I'm just going back in here. Okay. CD3 marking routes, CD5. Okay. So, okay. So I'm going to do a few things in here, and here we go. Okay. So first of all, when you're doing it, you are doing npm run dev, and you're running your system. Okay. Oh, well, I didn't install things, so great. Okay. npm run dev. Okay. So you'll see two things here. Apart from the warnings that I'll show you in a second how to get rid of, okay? So you will see that you have your app.js, okay? You're running it with this Fastify utility. What you could do is you could run you can use the eject command to generate a server.js file for you. And your server.js file, it's essentially the same as before, but it has a few interesting parts in it. So the server file will load the configuration using .env. I will show this in a moment, and will handle the gracefully closing of the system. And just load the service that you're done. So with this, you could actually do node server.js, and will just run exactly the same as before. Okay? And it's actually interesting to have both type of things. The Fastify utility is actually very useful if you're doing development and you want to do the live reloading, because it has the watch thing, so you can automatically reload stuff. It's good. Now, those warnings that you see deprecated, I'm sorry for you. I have not updated the template. The template has been updated, but we are in the middle of a lot of release stuff. So if you want to get rid of the warnings, you can just open up the dependencies and do Fastify and rename the dependencies. Wait, okay. To add Fastify and slash, then add Fastify. Slash course, okay, and add Fastify slash sensible, okay, and then we need to bump it. Bump a version, okay. Here we go. And once we've done that, we need to update, we need to update our server. No, not the server, the app.js file. And then plugins course and plugin sensible. Okay. And Okay, and now it's working with no warnings, okay? So we basically moved all the plugins to go in on the Fastify, @Fastify name on NPM. You will see that some of those dependencies that you use have that @something. Those means that are scoped dependencies. This means that only the people in the, for example, Fastify or ESLint or Webpack communities can publish those things on. So typically it's to signal all of you that those are official modules and not something that is random people is publishing on the internet. Okay? Make sense? Okay, so good. How are you doing? Were you able to do it? Any problems, any blockers? Blockers? No? All good? Amazing, okay. So next one up. And, oh, yeah, this is mocking review, mocking get requests. Okay, posts. So let's go and talk a little bit about post requests. So what is a post? When you're accepting a post request on your server is the simplest way to give an attacker access to your system. That's what it is, okay? You're accepting user input to perform some mutable action on your machine. So this means that you're taking some inputs from a user, and with that input, you're doing some changes on your server to store that data somewhere or do stuff with it. Now, which also means that you can essentially, you're basically giving an attacker a way to do something. So as when you're doing a post, when you're receiving some data and you're developing a server, what you need to do is very simply validate your inputs. If you're not validating your inputs, you're doing it wrong. Note that the 90% of the tutorials that you find online will not show you how to validate your inputs whenever they're coming in from an untrusted source. Again, it's bad because most of the courses and tutorials online don't cover it, okay? Because otherwise it will become super complicated very quickly. And because it's a tutorial, we're not covering it today. No, I'm joking. But it's fundamental and paramount that whenever you are receiving, like in any industry, whenever you are receiving untrusted inputs from a user, validate that data. Sanitize and validate that data before doing anything with it. You are going to expose yourself to a hell of a lot of problems, okay? An example. Somebody asked why use Fastify versus using Express. Well, one of the reasons, two reasons I'm adding. The first one, Fastify provides embedded data validation. So you can actually specify data validation on the framework level. So the framework manages the data until it's validated for you. So you can specify the data, validate all the data for you beforehand. The second one, it actually protects you against, by default, against prototype pollution attacks. So whatever data comes in, it's already been sanitized against prototype pollution, which other frameworks do not do by default. So if you're using, how many of you have an Express server in production with a post accepting a JSON? Cool. Are you checking that the data is not being, the data you are receiving is not vulnerable to prototype pollution? No. So you're vulnerable to prototype pollution. I can hack your servers. Thank you. You're, tell me the address, please, so I can make some money. Okay. This is very simple, by the way. It's a very quick check, but it's not automatic, but it just requires that whenever those data comes in, it just requires that you're doing yourself or somebody else is just using a object.assign with it, and your global prototype is being polluted. So funny enough, it's very funny, by the way. Okay, so be careful when you do those things. Security is a double-edged word. So anyway, what we're going to do, we are going to show you how to write some post routes, okay? So you can keep going in our tutorial over here, and this is blah, 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 course, blah, 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 okay. Mocking get routes, you've done this. It's mocking post routes. Okay, so we're mocking the post routes, and here we go. So this is we are adding a form at the bottom. So you see that here we are adding a form, so people can actually add more stuff into our data. So we're actually mocking it, okay? Which means that we are storing those in memory. We are not storing them on the process. So, and with that, we are adding, we are modifying our fetch method. So you see here that you're putting a post, the method here, whatever, and we are adding a submit, okay? So we're changing a bunch of things. And now the populate products handle both get and posts. And there is a difference here. So basically, we are adding, Fastify provides a little bit more structure to your system compared to your traditional web app. So basically, we recommend you to add an utility to the request object, which means that it says mock data insert, whatever. And we'll use this utility later. It's all explained down, so I'll help you to answer questions later. The TLDR is, we are just, with our array here, we are just, when we receive a post, we are just doing the mock inserts. Okay, I'll let you through it and put this on top. And then I'll be here for questions once it's done. Hello. How do you do? How are you going? All good? You've done the post? Yeah, keep going. Keep going to the next step, OK? Is there any blockers? I steal your code. I steal your typing. So please raise your hand if you finished the post thing. OK, OK, perfect. The others keep going. Keep going on the post. For all of you, move to the next step in the training. OK. Yeah, yeah. Hello, hello. Okay. We are going for lunch at 12. It's not catered, so you are on your own. Find a place nearby. There's plenty of suggestions. So if there is somebody who's a local, please follow them. If there is no local, just open Google Maps and pick a place. Okay, that's what I would do. And that's it, really. So yeah, pick one. And we'll be back in after 1 hour. The room will be locked, so you can you can leave your laptop, your bags, whatever you want here. It's fine. If you shared that your recommendation, we all storm the lobster place, and then we are screwed. We won't be able to. So that was not a good choice, James. Hello? Okay, oh, wow. Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, great. Okay, so let's go into the mocking post routes, okay? So let's do it here, actually. Let's do it. So here we go. So mocking post routes. So what we have done, we still have our same Fastify application as we had before with auto load to load stuff from the files, okay? We have our routes, and we have here, we have added our things, okay? We have this nice mock data insert to add stuff on it, okay? Which is totally unsafe because it adds the bits to it. So we are not doing any validation. Okay, so how does this work? Well, we are also adding a plugin for doing our data utilities. So this is actually a very important concern when building Node.js applications, and Node.js applications that can actually resist the test of times. Okay, so you usually want to separate your data access from your routes handling. You want to have some logic, some part of your application that deals with the business logic, the data access, and so on, and some other part of the application that deals with your with the routes. Okay, something that's again very contentious, okay, and I'm going to say contentious because that's what it is. I am absolutely not fond of ORMs, okay, especially with Node, but in general, and generically of the model view control pattern. How many of you are familiar with the model view control pattern on web apps? Okay. So in the model view control pattern, you divide your application into 3 segments. You have the views, what you render. You have the controllers, manages the routes, and you have the models, where it stores the data. That's how you have 3 buckets, okay? However, the problem with every system that has only 3 buckets is as your application grows in complexity, you only have 3 buckets. You can only put something in 3 buckets. And because most of our APIs are stuff, most of what we do as API, you only have 2 in reality. You have controllers and models. And your complexity only goes into those 2 categories. What happens as your application grows in complexity is that it becomes a blob of spaghetti code, essentially, because you have so many controllers and so many models that is ununderstandable by a single individual. It's not uncommon to see an application with 2,000 models. How can you understand a 2,000 models application? Why does those things happen? They happen because your application grows. You start working on your system, on a new app, and it's you and your friend, okay, a colleague, small team, 2 people, 3 people, and you add a few models, and it's all working great, okay? And you're basically building what we call a monolith, okay? It's a single system that runs. However, at some point, this system is very successful, and you are reaching the 8 people, 8, 9 people of a team. Now, however, business wants more features and more features. So it said, well, I'm adding you more people. Now you have 20 people on the monolith. How many of you is on a team of 20 people? Okay, I'm sorry for you. Okay. The book of management of software projects tells you that the sweet spot is between 6 and 8 people per team, which means that in order because that is reduces the number of communication and synchronization things between all the people in the team to a manageable one, okay? So basically it means that you start splitting teams and growing and growing. The problem is that if you only have 2 buckets in which you divide your system, you are in big trouble because you cannot grow your team forever. At some point, it will become a big mess. So you need to develop your applications in a way that is actually very modular and separated with different concerns. And the MVC structure is not that one. You need to structure your application using features, for example, okay, as a topic. Okay, I have the cart subsystem, and that's a cart subsystem. Cart domain. Oh, I'm using a term, domain, okay? And I have the cart domain, or I have the logistics domain, or I have the product domain, okay? And with those domains, I can have their own routes, they have their own interfaces, and so on and so forth. Fastify is great for building those systems, those applications, because in each each thing, it's each plugin is actually can be encapsulated. So you can have a set of routes. You see here that you're doing this decorate request. This decorate request is public. It's getting to all, it's getting everywhere, okay, now with this setup. But we can switch it so that it only happens for a certain class of routes. In that way, you could actually start modeling your system into modeling each of your domains into their own little micro app, which is own decorators, its own structure, and everything. And in that way, it just works. And you don't have to worry too much about the complexities and of growing and building a large monolithic system, okay? So I don't know, this was a little bit of a ramble, but I hope I passed something, okay? So this is where you see this decorate request, okay? So this add a property to our request object. However, we are using this Fastify plugin utility to actually publish this decoration everywhere. If we remove that, it wouldn't work, okay? And so we were talking about the data validation, okay? So you have written the post, right, all of you? So with the post, what you could do is you could actually specify some data validation stuff. And because we see, as I showed you, it's actually very, very important. Now, you usually don't validate data when you do this kind of mocks, but you know, it's a course of Node. So I'm actually showing something. So, okay, so what we need to install here, okay. By the way, you might see that I ran without npm audit, okay? You've seen this npm audit thing that signals that you have an enormous amount of vulnerabilities in your code. I ran without. So you can draw your own conclusions from me running without it, okay? What I'm saying, it's, okay, just so that you are aware. I've not, npm audit is disabled on this machine, okay? Anyway, so what we can do, so I am adding a library called Fluent JSON Schema. So how many of you know what is JSON Schema? A few, good. Okay, the people that work in the enterprise, some people that work in the enterprise that had to deal with JSON Schema, okay? What is JSON Schema? It's a language to specify the structure of a JSON. Why do we need it? Well, especially when building APIs is actually very important because we can tell somebody, oh, you can send us, it's very good for also for documentation because you can say, you can tell the calling parties as well, the data needs to be formatted according to this JSON schema. However, we can also use for data validation internally. So Fastify has embedded support for JSON schema. Happy days. That's what I called it about using being support for validation. How do we use it? It's very easy. Well, to some extent. So what we are going to use, in fact, is not JSON schema because I cannot write in JSON schema. I forget the syntax of JSON schema after 1 minute. So I am actually going to use Fluent JSON schema. What is Fluent JSON schema? it says on the tin, it's a Fluent API to build JSON schema. So we can, to specify a schema, we can just add a schema option in here. And for example, we want to provide a schema for the body. So, and then we can, where is this? F dot, so I forget. So Fluent JSON schema, it's, if you open it up, okay, if you open it up, it's just a Fluent API to define a schema, okay? If you have TypeScript toolchain installed, it will actually autocomplete it, so it's actually very easy to type and so on. And so, well, let's call it S, because I like it better. And so let's say that this is an object. Okay, so it's an object. And we need to have an ID. The ID is provided. We need the, I forget the syntax, of course, or the prop. Okay, so it's an object. We need the prop with a prop. With a prop, it's an object. Let's do this. So it's an object with a prop of the called name, which is a string. Okay, then we want a prop with RRP, which is a string, happy days, and then there's a prop, which is info, which is a string, and this is required, required, required. Okay, so, and that's it. Okay, so now I can run this server. Okay, and oh, yeah, all those examples. Okay, here we go. And oh, S is not a function. Yeah, big deal. Okay, so now it's running. Okay, so now we are doing this into the this is confectionery. So we can test it with curl. And note that we need to specify the content type. Otherwise, Fastify will complain badly. And because it's not, it won't work otherwise. It's very strict into its I'm really bad. Factionary. Okay, yeah, you see that it actually throw an error and reply that it requires, body should have required property name. And we have actually created this to some extent on the fly. Okay, it's if you're using VS Code and all the TypeScript tools, blah, 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 install it, autocompletes, and it's actually very simple. If you're using TypeScript, okay, how many of you like TypeScript? Okay, happy days. Do you like TypeScript? You like TypeScript very much, right? So if you like TypeScript, so this is Fastify 3. Fastify 4, which I'm releasing tomorrow. So I'm doing a keynote, then I'm doing Fastify v4. Okay, what can go wrong? And I'm going to show you part of the stuff that we are going to release. So in Fastify v4, we are going to we will be able to support these new syntax. So basically, you specify your JSON schema, and it will automatically be typed by the system. It will automatically work. Even better, you could even just use typebox, and it will automatically work. So basically, you could just write this, and you will have automatically typed automatically type a request and query parameter headers and bodies just by specifying the type box data, which is really important if you're building applications. Okay, so again, this is improving. So it's again, all of this is documented on the website. It's going out tomorrow or the day after my talks. So this is for JavaScript. Fluent JSON schema works really well for JavaScript, but it does not provide automatic typing for everything. With Typebox and Fastify v4, you will be able to. So it's quite a great thing. So what else should I cover? Okay. Good. I think we have covered this. Are there any questions related to the post block? All good? Okay, let's see what else. So the post block. Great, okay. So I think we can break for lunch, and we'll be back at 1.